Me that there was a young man named Elvis Presley that I was going to be working with. I didn't know who Elvis Presley was.
Dolores Hart was dubbed another Grace Kelly because to her breathtaking good looks. Her star was rising rapidly in Hollywood thanks to a string of successful films. But at the moment when her circumstances were ideal, Dolores Hart stunned her legion of followers and the press with a decision she made at the tender age of 25. Unfortunately, she spilled the beans about her bad experience and perspective with Hollywood. After leaving Hollywood in 1963, she became a religious sister in the Catholic Church. But why did she suddenly decide to leave Hollywood? How did her time in Hollywood shape her? Help us uncover Dolores Hart's tale by sticking around. Transferred from a stunning actress to a devout Catholic sister. Nobody needs me. I am unnecessary for you. The sole offspring of actor Burt Hicks and Harriet Hicks, Dolores was brought into this world in Chicago on October 20th, 1938. After her parents' divorce, she spent a lot of time living with her Catholic grandparents, who taught her to have strong religious beliefs. But the allure of her father's theatrical world was equally powerful. She would see his performance from the wings. While subtly fantasizing about her own opportunity to shine, she takes in the cadence of the stage. She started out in supporting parts at Marymount College after graduating from high school. Hollywood producer Hal Wallace was quick to see her innate ability and graceful demeanor, and he changed her name to Dolores Hart to reflect this transformation. It felt like the start of a predetermined career path. She shot to fame in 1957 co-starring with Elvis Presley in the King's debut color picture, Loving You. As the good-hearted young woman who sees his potential and helps him develop it, Dolores performed the role of Susan Jessup. Their connection was palpable, but it was that one unforgettable moment that cemented their place in history. Elvis Presley's first on-screen kiss was with Dolores Hart. What was once only a part of her role became a cultural touchstone, making her millions of admirers green with envy. Elvis and she were close friends away from the limelight. They would read the Bible together in the breaks between performances. In 1958, for King Creole, widely regarded as one of his finest pictures, she worked with him again the following year. With this role, she brought to life the sweet Nellie, a girl whose generosity shone a light on Danny Fisher's troubled past. Crime ensnared a young man. She stepped up her acting game for the part, which called for more nuance and sorrow, and she did it with poise and poignancy. Dolores had progressed beyond the status of Elvis's sweetheart. She was compared to Grace Kelly in the press, who was also lauded by critics for her authenticity and magnetic presence, as well as her composure and adaptability. But behind all the glitz and splendor, Dolores wanted more than just playing the role of the innocent, nice girl. She yearned for parts that showed more nuance, with characters who reflected the realities of life's challenges and darker sides. Her rise looked impossible to halt. A new, promising star had been found in Hollywood. However, Dolores Hart's narrative was always going to be about more than just her fame. She was at the pinnacle of her career when, in the background, a voice began to whisper that would take her away from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood and onto a stage unlike any she had experienced before. Dolores Hart's career blossomed after her breakthrough with Elvis, with parts that showcased her charisma and complexity. She appeared in 1957 alongside Anna Magnani and Anthony Quinn in the film Wild is the Wind. She proved she could confidently stand among Hollywood's greats, even though it was simply a supporting role. She moved into more substantial roles the following year, in 1958's Lonely Hearts, with Robert Ryan and Montgomery Clift. Her performance as an innocent young woman entangled in a terrible relationship had an honesty that suggested the gravity of her skill. A romantic comedy that encapsulated the essence of adolescence and went on to become a global phenomenon, where The Boys was released in 1960. Merritt, played by Dolores, was a reflective college student on the lookout for lasting love amidst a series of transient relationships. The success of the film propelled her to popularity and gave her a platform to speak for a younger audience. Still, 1961's Frances of Assisi was the one who subtly altered her trajectory. Playing the character of St. Clair, who abandoned her fortune to join St. Francis, Dolores brought an unusual level of dedication to her performance. Pope John V informed her, "You are Claire," while they were filming in Rome. She was extremely affected by the words. Acting was no longer the role for Dolores. Even after the cameras stopped rolling, a profound spiritual need persisted. A more experienced actress emerged in her later flicks. She played the role of a Holocaust survivor escaping to Palestine with much emotion in the 1962 film The Inspector, feeling the pain and strength of a broken spirit. It turned out to be a particularly chilling part for her. The 1963 light comedy Come Fly With Me was her final film performance. It was about airline stewardesses. Despite its upbeat tone, it signaled the peaceful conclusion of her Hollywood era. In 1959, she received a Tony Award nomination while performing for His Pleasure on Broadway, in addition to her film credits. It appeared as though Dolores Hart was living a life of luxury to the outside world. She had it all: youth, radiance, success, and adoration. She was a rising star. Even so, she hid a sadness that only a select few could perceive beneath her celebrity. An agonizing emptiness that intensified as she ascended was her greatest challenge, not a flop in performance or a controversy. She reminisced about how Hollywood felt like a machine once. She was presented in the best possible light. She had every detail taken care of. Everything about her, what she wore, what she said, and even the men she was supposed to be seen with, was influenced. The glitz enchanted onlookers, but she frequently felt like she was being forced to play a part she had never chosen. She needed the peace and quiet that the industry could never provide after being exhausted by the constant buzz of filming, interviews, and glamorous parties. She never let the contracts and accolades fill her soul. She started by posing the most perplexing questions to herself. Just what is the point of this? In reality, why am I here? She was unable to shut the door after landing the part of St. Clair in Francis of Assisi. Acting out the story of a woman who gave up her privileged life for her beliefs stirred something in her. A goal that would not be satisfied by a life of stardom and fortune. It was not failure that was tragic for Dolores, but rather living a life that did not resonate with her soul. She was caught between the clamor of Hollywood and the stillness of her faith. Her exhaustion and inner emptiness became intolerable following the success of Where the Boys Are. A trusted acquaintance recommended that she check out the Bethlehem, Connecticut Abbey of Regina Laudis, which is famous for its quiet atmosphere. She initially viewed it solely as a retreat, an opportunity to relax before getting back to her work. Upon entering the convent, Dolores felt a tranquility that had eluded her before. She felt profoundly moved by the quiet, the solemn cadence of prayer, and the humbling labor of gardening and caring for animals. Even though they had so little, the nuns exuded a calm and joy that was missing from Hollywood's glitz. Attracted to this serene environment, she started going back twice a year, finding solace with each journey. Still, a profound melancholy accompanied her every departure, as if she were leaving her actual dwelling place. She attempted to still the growing clamor for something more, but she eventually gave in. It was as if Dolores's personal life were a dream as she struggled with the subtle tug of her spiritual vocation. Don Robinson, an accomplished architect with a compassionate personality and unwavering dedication, was the ideal companion she had met. From the outside looking in, they were the picture-perfect couple, stunning, successful, and head over heels for each other. Dolores found solace in their real and loving relationship, which was not an illusion but a reality that helped her find purpose in life. Dawn asked her hand in marriage in 1963, and she joyfully accepted. Rapidly, plans for their future came to fruition. A home, a lavish wedding, and the hope for a happy, secure future. It appeared as though the void inside Dolores may be filled at last, to her. She hoped that the stability she sought may be found through marriage and starting a family. She proudly wore her engagement ring while she shot her last film, Come Fly With Me, and got ready to start a new chapter in her life. Everything seemed to have settled down on the surface. However, the very voice she had fought so hard to keep quiet became increasingly audible as the wedding approached. Despite her profound love for Dawn, the memories of her role as St. Clair, her trips to the monastery, and her desires for quiet reflection and prayer returned with a vengeance. Then she had a revelation. The love of God was claiming her heart. The strife ripped her to shreds. There was Dawn, the man she loved, and the life of beauty, comfort, and companionship he provided. Conversely, there was the solitary path of faith and celibacy, which was fraught with uncertainty. Dolores was so distraught about hurting Don's heart that she wept uncontrollably and couldn't sleep. Of giving up on a career she had worked so hard to establish and giving up on the trappings of a future that everyone else admired. She finally opted for being truthful. Don wasn't the one she wanted to break up with. She wanted to tell him the truth. She loves him, but she also feels God calling her. It is on my radar. Aiding me is a requirement if you truly love me. Don's reaction was out of this world. Despite his anguish, he made no appeal. Also, he never became resentful. Rather, he gracefully acknowledged her choice. Every love has a secret, and I always knew ours was, he whispered. Tragically noble as it was, he then personally drove her to the monastery's gates. There and then, Dolores abandoned all she had ever known. Everything that had propelled her to stardom, the dazzling ring, the ball gowns, the profession, along with the man whose boundless love for her had no bounds. An ultimate sacrifice, it was a decision shrouded in sorrow that shone with conviction. It was not the end, but rather the beginning of Dolores' journey toward the serenity her spirit had sought throughout her life. News of Dolores Hart's departure from Hollywood for a convent shocked the globe. Out of nowhere, the stunning actress, who had on-screen kissed Elvis Presley, acted in successful films, and been proclaimed the future Grace Kelly, disappeared. The story made headlines in newspapers. The studios were taken aback, and the fans were certain it was all just a marketing trick. On the other hand, it wasn't. Suddenly, Dolores vanished from view and entered a place no one had ever dreamed of for her, a Connecticut monastery. In Regina Lotti's abbey, there was a striking contrast between her old life and her new one. Quiet, prayer, and toil supplanted the dazzling lights, crimson carpets, and unending cheers. While a postulant, she would get up in the wee hours of the morning to pray with her fellow community members 8 times a day. She also discovered that even the most menial chores, like tending to livestock, gardening, or milking cows, may have profound value. The woman had gone from draping herself in couture to donning a simple habit. The idol of millions of fans became just one of many women, equal in God's eyes. Her metamorphosis was more of a birth than a retreat. Dolores Hart, after years of preparation, took the name Mother Dolores Hart and professed her final vows. It didn't take long for her leadership skills to be recognized, and she was quickly given the responsibility of leading the abbey as prioress, overseeing the welfare of her sisters and the community's overall trajectory. She has lived under the auspices of Saint Benedict at Regina Lottis for almost 60 years. Scent and work. Stay focused and get things done. The stillness of early morning remains the starting point of each day for Mother Dolores. The day is divided into 8 prayers, with vigils beginning at 2 a.m. and interspersed with work and study. Manual labor is still essential, whether it's caring for animals, producing cheese, tending to gardens, or overseeing administrative duties that keep the abbey running. Not because it is empty, but because it allows one to think deeply. Silence is valued. Everything that Hollywood lacked was present in the austere, communal, and regulated life of the monastery. Dolores, on the other hand, finally felt the calm she had sought for so long. Upon entering, she gave up her profession and all of her possessions. She was bereft of possessions, bound by vows of poverty. She had no right to seize the riches that rightfully belonged to her community. But what she got out of it was priceless. A spiritual community, a regular prayer routine, and a profound spiritual intimacy with God that no recording deal could have provided. She frequently refers to the nuns as her sisters, even though she never wed or had a family of her own. As she guided them as prioress, she became like a spiritual mother to countless individuals. What about the man she abandoned, Don Robinson? No resentment or animosity grew out of their story. He was faithful to her in his own manner, even if he never wed. He kept his promise and spent Christmas and Easter with her in the abbey for many years, right up until his death in 2011. When he was near death, Dolores was there to comfort him. What started as a crush eventually blossomed into a lasting friendship characterized by a love that was both profound and cleansed by sacrifice. No matter how many times she vowed to cut links with her past, Dolores never really did. Even after her passing, she continued to receive films from the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences so that she could cast her ballot. This was a tiny but significant link to the arts, which she had once immersed herself in completely. She made a short comeback to the Oscars in 2012, Hollywood's most glitzy stage. God is the Bigger Elvis was a documentary that detailed her narrative. She walked the red carpet while dressed as a nun, rather than in couture. The HBO-produced picture was up for an Oscar. The motivation behind her participation was not self-indulgence, but rather the urgent necessity to raise finances for the repair of the abbey. The picture, the remarkable trajectory of her life, was chronicled by a nun amidst Hollywood stars. Still living at Regina Laudi's house now, Mother Dolores is in her 80s. She keeps up her prayer and work routine even if she is no longer prioress. The Ear of the Heart, her autobiography, details her transition from actor to nun and provides a personal look into the quiet resolve and self-sacrifice that came with her decision. To make sure the abbey is there for centuries to come, she has also worked very hard on its expansion initiatives.